G'day, Rod Moore here from Moore Art School. Welcome to this step-by-step video where I'm going to walk you through how to paint a seascape. This is part one of three. As I develop a seascape painting, I'm taking progressive photos and then putting together these videos to just give you, I guess, an outline of the process that you would go through to create a seascape painting. If you want to find out more about Moore Art School, then you can do so at www.mooreartschool.com. So, the painting that we're going to do today is this great shot here of Point Lonsdale lighthouse, which is in Victoria, Australia, not far from where I live down the road. Been one of my favourite subjects to paint over the last few years, and very popular painting with local artists and so on. So this is the painting we're going to do. I think it's a good example of a seascape painting, which has some really a very strong centre of interest, obviously being the lighthouse, and it's one that you can really use to tell a story as well. We can put some people on the beach and so on. So I think it'll make a good demonstration painting and a great one for you to have a try out as well. You can do this in oils or acrylics, whatever pleases you. I'm doing it in oils for this particular painting, and I'm using a very limited palette. So I'm using ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and titanium white. And I like to keep a limited palette so that there's good, strong colour harmony throughout the painting. And as I said, you could do it in oils or acrylic. I'm using oils, so I'm also using gum turpentine, which is just a turpentine made from a eucalypt. So it dries a bit quicker than some of the other turpentines. You can use whatever mediums you want. If you're using acrylics, no need to use mediums at all. So pretty straightforward. This is the brushes that I'm using and my messy palette here. So you can see you've got the ultramarine blue, the alizarin crimson, cad yellow, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and the titanium white. And I'm only using a handful of brushes. I'm using this hog hair brush here, which is, they sell this as a gesso brush, but I find it really good for blocking in large areas and so on. And I've got two flat brushes, a medium size and quite a small one for detailing, and a little rigger brush as well for lines and final finishing touches and things like that. So really minimal amount of equipment being used, and I like to keep it simple. Okay, so I'm going to be using what I call the Moore method of painting. Now, in my classes and my online courses, the approach that I teach our beginners is what I call the Moore method of painting. It's really just following three simple steps. The first step is to draw in the big shapes on the canvas. Second step is to block in those big shapes and make sure you get the value, the color, saturation, that type of thing correct in the blocking stage. And then the third step is the details and the refinement. And so I find that students, when you break it down into these three steps for them, it becomes a lot easier for them to understand how to approach a painting, and that's why we teach this Moore method of painting. So using that three-step process, this is obviously step one, is to draw in the big shapes. And all I've done is mix up some ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson with a fair bit of thinner, so it's quite a runny mix, and use my little small flat brush, and I've just sketched in the big shapes. Okay, so I've got this foreground sort of hill here, which is mostly in shadow, catching a little bit of light. Got the sand dune here, it's another big shape. The lighthouse, obviously, I put the lighthouse too tall, and I had to rub it back and then redo it. So that's another big shape. Then we've got this sandy area here. There's another big shape. We've got the water mass, and then the sky. Okay, so there's about five large shapes in this painting. You can see there's my reference photo that I was using, and I like to hold the reference photo in my hand as I sketch it out. Okay, so that's just the approach that I use. So that's step one in the Moore method, is getting that drawing sketched in. Now, if you're not happy with your placement and so on, don't be afraid to to rub it back, wipe it out, and paint over it. I think it's important that you take your time at this stage to get the drawing in, reasonably accurate, and it's all about placement of the main shapes within the painting at this stage. Okay, now moving along, I started blocking in my darks. Okay, so the darkest dark is this foreground hill here, which is mostly in shadow, as I said. So this is a mix of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and alizarin crimson and quite a bit of thinner. And I just use that gesso brush and I just block it in. Okay. And one thing to think about is where it's up the top here is going to be more sun, so you want to warm the colour up slightly, and down towards the base here it's going to be getting less sun, so you cool it down. So you push it warmer and cooler, this dark mix. And that'll give you a nice sort of dimension to that hill there. And then I've got the sand dune here, and what I've done obviously there is cooled it down. There's a bit more blue in that mix, and just a little touch of titanium white, not too much because it'll overpower it. And by cooling that down and bluing it off a little bit and lightening the tone a bit, you can see that it's sitting behind and it's creating depth already in the painting just with that step there. Oh, and I blocked in some rocks here. They're not actually in the painting, in the photo, but I thought it might be a nice way just to stop the eye running out of the bottom of the corner of the painting here. So I put some rocks in there, using the same tone as the foreground hill. And then as we come down here, there's an old World War II concrete bunker right there, and a rocky outcrop there. So I've just warmed that mix back up again. I put more alizarin crimson in and warmed it up because it's catching the sun. The sun's coming from the left hand side here down, and it's clipping these rocks and the old World War II bunkers. I warmed up that mix there. To give the effect of that sort of warmth of the sun there. And then the very distant hill here is way off in the distance. And so I've cooled that back down, that mix, and lightened it quite a bit more yellow, titanium white than what we had on this mix here. Okay, so just by blocking in those darks with the right value and the right, tone in the colour, you can see that already there's depth happening in the painting. Okay, and you want to make sure you're getting that sort of dimensional feel in the painting right at this early stage. And then I moved on and blocked in the sand area. This is yellow ochre and burnt sienna. And this is quite a large area, and it's quite central to the painting, so it is going to catch the eye. And the one thing you want to be careful here is you don't just paint this in the one value, the one tone here. Okay, if you just mixed up a big pile of yellow ochre and white and just put the whole area in that yellow ochre and white, you run the risk of it starting to look flat. And what you want to do is further away, you want to have it less saturation in the colour. You want to grey it off and lighten the tone a bit. And in the foreground here, it needs to get darker. So I need to revisit this and just make it slightly darker in the foreground and reseed that back by using maybe some burnt sienna, which will also warm up the foreground, which is what we want to do. Okay, so we blocked in the sand area there. And then I started working on the sky. Sorry that my photo's a little bit skew-iff there. I'm using ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson and titanium white for the sky. And you can see here I've got more blue in the mix in the top here. And as I get down towards the bottom, I'm lightening off that mix and adding in more alizarin crimson. I'm trying to create that hazy late afternoon sort of atmosphere in the painting. And I think we're starting to get there at this early stage. I'm starting to shape up some of the clouds with my shadow side, and that's just a stronger mix of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, and just getting a feel for where the sky is and where the clouds are going to be and so on. And I also started just putting a little bit of a darker grey, bluey grey, I guess, on the shadow side of the lighthouse here. As you can see, the sun's coming from the left-hand side, so this left-hand side will all be in light, and I'm just getting a feel for the darker side of the shadow side of the lighthouse there. Just playing around, just getting some colour in there just to get a sense of how it's going to look. And then I went on and blocked in the water area, and the water is just ultramarine blue, yellow ochre and titanium white. And the thing with water is where it's further away towards the horizon line, it's usually a little bit darker in tone. And as it comes towards us, like right in the shallows here, the water's not very deep, so it tends to reflect more of the sky. So it's going to be a lighter value to match the sky there. And you can see here where I've got these dark bands here. I've just darkened up the mix, a bit more ultramarine blue and a bit more yellow ochre. And you can even put a little pinhead of alizarin crimson in at this stage. And these are the early formations of my waves. Right? So when waves stand up as they're about to roll over, they are darker than the water laying flat because they're not reflecting the sky above. So just as you're forming your waves, just make them a little bit darker in the base of the wave there, and that'll help you get that nice rolling sort of look in your waves. So that's a start. This is part one of this video. As I said, this is really getting it all blocked in. What I'll do in the next video, and the next part of this painting, is I'll start to just apply more paint into these main areas and get a bit more detail starting to happen into them. So we'll cover that in more detail in the next video. And then in the third video, I'll look at all those little refining touches. I'll put some people in and the little staircase and little bits of seaweed and things in the sand. So all those little finishing touches will be added in the third video. Now, if you want to learn more about painting and how to get started painting, if you're a beginner or intermediate painter, we've got a free 5-day video course called Learn to Paint, and it's yours free as a thank you for watching this video. Just drop by www.freepaintingvideos.com and or click on the screen here, and you'll get access to our free 5-day video course. If you've enjoyed this video, then you'll love the free 5-day video course. My name's Rod Moore from Moore Art School. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in videos 2 and 3. Cheers for now.